The community has voted. It seems that the majority of players want crossplay with Ark Survival Ascended. Crossplay has its ups and downs, so let's jump into it. Crossplay allows for more players to connect and interact, keeping a gaming community healthier and more competitive, making crossplay seem very appealing. But there is a catch. In order for crossplay to work, a game must be developed for the weakest system first. This means that the game will always be limited. All of the artist renditions of the new looks for ASA, structures, and weapons show more polygons being used than in Ark Survival Evolved to get the better look. A lot of these will most likely have to be scaled back. Crossplay will most likely be between the Xbox, PS5, and PC. I doubt they make the Switch part of crossplay. If this is the case, then the weakest system is going to be the Xbox Series S. To give you an idea, the graphics card in the Xbox Series S is equivalent to an NVIDIA 1650 Super, which is about 90% weaker than the 1080 and 2070, which are both outdated graphics cards that struggle with Ark Survival Evolved. The PS5 graphics card is equivalent to the 2070, so you should have an idea of how limited Ark Survival Ascended is going to be on the graphics side of things. Now, both consoles have decent RAM and processors, but the 16 gigs of RAM will still limit Ark Survival Ascended. I have 32 gigs of RAM and still have crashes from my RAM getting maxed when playing Ark Survival Evolved. So Wildcard is going to have to optimize Ark Ascended a lot just to get what already exists to run well. Upping the graphics to make the game look even better and still keep the game within the Xbox capabilities is going to be quite difficult. Getting much better looking weapons, objects, terrain, trees, and dinos seems unlikely. There are a few tricks they can use that will take advantage of the processor's power rather than the GPU to make the graphics appear better. Let's say Wildcard succeeds in this hurdle and improves the look of the game. There are a few more hurdles they have to get over to make crossplay viable. The biggest of the hurdles is getting the different systems to communicate. The Xbox and PlayStation use different security protocols when communicating through the internet and connecting players. These systems are incompatible with each other and with the PC. Yes, there are games like Rocket League that manage to connect players in quick matches with a few players, but the amount of data shared is limited and requires quite a bit of work to make happen. To get the PC, Xbox, and PlayStation all talking to each other, an environment has to be built separate of the three, that they can all send packets to, where these packets can then be changed into the proper security format and then sent to all the other connecting players. The process is not instant, and depending on the encryptions could cause more delays for console users. While these delays may only be milliseconds, the time could build up and cause issues when doing anything precise, such as sniping. Possibly even allowing Giga Riders to get in an extra byte or two, which could be all the difference in a Giga on Giga fight. One of the biggest issues is the PlayStation Network still limits the amount of data that can be shared with PC and Xbox. This is for safety reasons for their users, but may cause issues with the way Ark works, since Ark is not a quick matchmaking game with a small amount of players connecting. Ark servers run all the time, with info packets constantly being sent and received. There is a good possibility that as time goes on, that the delay of information being sent and received on console will compound, giving PC players an even larger advantage. As the servers are PC-based, PC players will send and receive information the fastest, as there is less decrypting and encrypting needed for packets. Now, when playing online games, there is always a delay between sending and receiving packets, so game developers have AI helping interpret what could be happening during the delay. Depending on how well the environment is set up, with all the systems connected to it, will determine how large that delay will be. Games like Rocket League have a background process that tries to predict player movement as best as possible to make it look like everything is happening in real time. This system makes adjustments as players do something that it did not predict. Many games use similar technology to make up for the time it takes to send info to the server, and the server to update and send that info back. This is why you can get some weird and sometimes frustrating moments in competitive games. I am unsure if a similar system exists in Ark or not. Based on my PvP experience in Ark, my guess would be it does not, or does not work well, which means this is another system that Wildcard needs to build to make Ark Ascended as fair as possible. Considering the size of the maps and the possibilities of how a player can move, fight, and switch between a large amount of gear, it'd be really hard to program an AI to predict player behavior and predict the movement and actions during the delay to show to everyone until the server updates. Speaking of making the game as fair as possible, keyboard and mouse versus controller? Some players swear that the keyboard and mouse gives an edge in PvP. Let us know in the comments below if you think a keyboard and mouse gives an edge over the controller in Ark. As someone who loves using a controller in Ark, I can say keyboard and mouse does give an edge, but only in a shootout. Melee or dino fights are about even, if not going a little over, to the controller. That said, unlike console games, there is no aim assist for the controller on the PC. Most console games have a built-in aim assist that helps to track a target when you get close to aiming at the target to help compensate for the less precise controls of a controller. If a similar aim assist is added into the console side, then there may be little to no advantage to using a mouse and keyboard other than the Gen 2 races. Those are the biggest hurdles that will take some time to figure out how to overcome and make them work well for crossplay. The advantage to crossplay is that players get to access a larger player base, keeping the game more interesting for longer. This will help fuel PvP and maybe even create rivalry of PC versus console tribes. On the PvE side of things, players will now be able to join up and play with friends that they may not have been able to before with crossplay. But does access to more players make up for being limited to what the Xbox S can handle? Let us know in the comments below if you think crossplay is worth the loss. Personally, graphics are not important to me. I only care about the game is fun and works well. All the players that play BattleBit probably agree, but for some, having to rebuy Ark with potentially worse graphics than Ark already has may be a no-go. The limitations of the Xbox Series S may cause the crossplay idea to be scrapped in order to provide a prettier, more expensive game. If you enjoyed the video, smash that like button. Have an awesome day.